Welcome to the Partitioning Game Show. I'm your host, Miss Giddings, and we are back again with another game show. Today we are going to play a game comparing halves and fourths. Don't forget that it's your job to call out the correct answer when you see it. You will have 15 seconds to answer. Let's get started. Question number 1. If you partition a shape into halves, and halves is the important word here, if you partition a shape into halves, how many pieces will you have? A, 2, B, 6, C, 4, or D, 1? Do you have your final answer? If you partition a shape into halves, you will have 2 pieces. Remember that if we have a shape and we partition it in half, we will have 2 halves. Question number 2. How many pieces will you have if you partition a shape into fourths? This time we are talking about fourths. A, 2, B, 6, C, 4, or D, 1? Do you have your final answer? The answer is 4. If you partition a shape into fourths, you will have 4 equal parts. Remember, we can see that word 4 in the name fourths. Question number 3. Which piece of pizza would you rather have? Would you rather have a half of a pizza or B, 1/4 of a pizza? Do you have your final answer? I would rather have 1/2 of a pizza because I love pizzas, and if I look, I know that a half is a bigger slice than if I had a fourth. So I would rather have 1/2 of a pizza because it is a bigger piece. Question number 4. Which piece of a cookie cake is smaller? Is it A, 1/2, or B, 1/4? Do you have your final answer? Right on. 1/4 is the smaller piece of cookie cake. If we look at those cookie cakes, and I'm looking at 1/2, 1/2 of the cookie cake is way bigger than 1/4. And remember, when we have a shape that we are partitioning, if it has more pieces we are partitioning, the pieces are getting smaller. So 1/4 is smaller than 1/2. Question number 5. If you partition a shape into more pieces, the pieces get, if we have more pieces, do the pieces get A, bigger, or B, smaller? What are you thinking? If we have a shape that is partitioned into more pieces, the pieces do you think it's bigger or do you think they get smaller? Think back to some of the problems we've already done. Do you have your final answer? Before we give our final answer, let's look at some donuts that we learned about on Tuesday. As you can see, we have 1/2 and we have some fourths, 4/4. And when we are looking at these donuts, which one has more pieces? The one that our arrow is pointing to, the fourths, there are 4 pieces. And if we go back to our halves, there are 2 pieces. So when we have more pieces, do the pieces get bigger or smaller? It can be a little bit tricky because when we hear more, we might be thinking a bigger number. But really, when we are cutting something up into more pieces, the pieces are getting smaller. They are getting smaller. So when we have more pieces to partition, they are smaller. Great idea. That wraps up the partitioning game show for today. You are the very best. Head back to Seesaw to complete today's activities